Hello there and welcome back. In this video I am going to introduce you with the auto layout feature. So auto layout is a feature or a property actually that you can add to frames and components. It allows you to create designs that grow to fill or shrink to fit and reflow as the content changes. And this can be quite useful, especially when you're adding new elements to an existing layout, because with an auto layout feature, your layout can scale up quite well. Now, there are also some limitations that are automatically applied when you enable the auto layout. Like, for example, you cannot add layout grids to the frame that has enabled the auto layout feature. You cannot apply constraints to the objects within an auto layout frame unless the object has an absolute position enabled, and you cannot use a smart selection on any objects within the frame. So now we're going to create one custom UI component together, and you will see in practice how this auto layout feature will actually work. So this is our actual home screen, right? I'm going to now here press Shift R to actually add two guides within my actual screen. So we can actually have the padding here on both sides. And here on the center, for now, I'm going to add one rectangle. So let's choose R key. Let's create here one rectangle to those actual guides that we have just created. There you go. I'm going to increase its size, for example, for now, just like that. I'm going to now also create one more rectangle, and this second rectangle will represent one actual image. So let's just here specify an image. There you go. The actual height of this image will be for now maybe 300. There you go. So let's first insert one image from here. I'm going to just actually use one plugin. So let's open up the components or the resources section, and from here I'm going to search for one plugin which is called Unsplash. So this Unsplash is basically one website which offers different kind of stock images that we can use for free. So here let's search, for example, for a mountain. One image that we want to include here in our design, for example, this one. There you go. So now we have added that image to our actual rectangular shape or fill. Next, down below, I'm going to now start adding some elements. So first, I'm going to here create one actual circle. So let's use the O key. Hold down Alt and Shift to create one perfect circle. There you go. Let's just also change this fill to something different. So the image, its size maybe can be maybe 24 by 24. There you go. For example, like that. Here I'm going to also use this Unsplash plugin. Let's search here for a people face or something like that. I'm going to now here, for example, include this one. There you go. We can now close that. We can open up this fill. And we can even crop, for example, like that. There you go. This is how now our actual avatar image looks like. So I'm going to specify this avatar image to be 12 dp away from this edge of our rectangle, and the same size here as well. So 12 and 12. There you go. So hold down the Alt key to see those actual dimensions or the distance between our actual selected element and all other elements. Okay, so now I'm going to also add one more element here. That will be a text. So let's here write, for example, one name. I'm going to type here my own name. The size will be Roboto 14 actually, of a regular or a medium. Let's center those two components. Here I'm going to set the distance to 10 maybe. There you go. Alright, now below that I'm going to create also three more icons here, so we can represent icon for a like, for a comment, and for sharing. For that I'm going to also use one plugin, which is called Material Design Icons, right? So from here I'm going to search for different kind of icons, outlined icons. So select this outline, 24 by 24. Let's choose here a favorite icon, so this heart. The next icon will be a bubble, so this one, and the third one will be share icon. So this one, there you go. Now let's close this plugin. So let's place them right here. So all of them. The distance between each one of them will be, for example, maybe let's say 10 dp, so 10, and here 10 as well. There we go. Now let's just select all of them by holding down the shift and select each one of them. Let's now move them right here. So 12 margin on the right side and 12 on the top. Perfect. So that's how it will look like for now. The next thing what we want to do here, and now I want to select all those three icons by holding down the shift, and I want to press one shortcut, Control A. So with that shortcut Control A, or sorry, Shift A, we will be able to enable this auto layout feature or property. And now those three icons are within one frame, right? And as you can see now, each and every frame contains a couple of different properties. For example, now within this frame, we can specify in what direction we want to place all our items or our child elements. As you can see now, when this auto layout feature is enabled, we can change this direction to vertical or a horizontal as well. For now, I'm going to use a horizontal, and alignment will be, for example, from the right side. We can also modify the property like the space between those items. We can modify that by ourselves like that. Just drag and drop with your actual mouse cursor. Or we can do that from here, just by typing here the actual values. The next values here are the actual padding, horizontal padding. For example, when I specify number 10, then this is the actual padding on the left and the right, which will appear immediately. I'm going to remove that. And this is also the vertical padding as well. As you can see now on the top and at the bottom, we have those two padding values. Let's also set that to 0. We can specify padding for each and every angle if you want, or for each and every side, just by pressing this button. And also here we have some more options for our auto layout, like the spacing mode. We have a packed and a space between. I'm going to show you how will that actually work later. Here we also have an option for the stroke to add or include those strokes in the layout or exclude from the layout. We also have this canvas stacking, so we can even stack multiple elements on each other. So for example, I can set the negative value on this actual spacing between the items. As you can see now, the negative value is also supported. And with that option right here, we can check and see whether we want to place the last element on the top or the first element on the top. So as you can see, we have two different options like that. And also we have this text-based line alignment, which we can use, of course. I'm going to now undo that negative spacing. There you go. So now we have specified those three icons within one frame, and that frame is enabled this auto layout feature, right? So now what I want to do here, I want to also select those two elements and press Shift plus A to create one new frame, right? And in this new frame, this avatar image and this text will have a 10 dp space between them. And now I'm going to also select those two frames and actually create a new frame out of those two frames, right? So press Shift A, and now that new frame contains two different frames. So for example, I'm going to select this first frame, and here we have different kind of options for a resizing, right? So for the actual width, I'm going to choose a fill container, so that our actual first frame can increase its actual width to fill the half of the parent. And this second one will also have a fill container as well. Now the spacing between each one of those items for now will be 0, so let's just add that to 0. As you can see, now each one of those frames has half of the size of its parent width. We can of course select our actual whole frame, and now we can try to resize this actual element to see how will that react on the changes. There you go, so that's how it reacts for now. So now we can select this text, for example, and we can even increase its actual width to fill the parent or the container, and the height to fill the container as well. Okay, and now for the text we can specify here the center or alignment on the middle. There you go, so that's how it works. So this hug content basically means that it will try to resize itself according to its children objects, and the frame will keep the smallest possible dimension to surround the objects within it, while respecting the padding values. However, objects that has this fill container will basically stretch to the width and or the height of their parent. As you can see here, we have enabled this fill for our actual text, and our text has basically filled the whole parent of the actual frame, right? So that's how it actually works. What we can do here also, we can specify here maybe this truncated text. So for example, if we add some more text to this element, for example, there you go, we will just display those 3 dots, and we will not resize and modify this actual frame furthermore. As you can see, that's how it works. So be sure to enable this truncate text within our actual text here, there you go. And as you can see now, whenever we try to resize this actual component, then this is how it will react, okay? So now we have created our first frame. Let's continue here by adding some more components. For example, now I want to add here some text that will just display some random text. So let's specify here some random text. What we can also do, we can just use one actual plugin, which is called lorem ipsum or lore. So let's just select and run this actual text or a plugin. Here I'm going to generate 4 different sentences. So let's just here click add, and immediately to our text we're going to add some random lorem ipsum text. Let me just reduce here the actual width of this text. So here I'm going to specify the size of this actual text. For example, from here, so 12 dp padding on the left side and 12 on the top, and 12 on the left as well, like that. Perfect. I'm going to now reduce here the font to say a regular. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. We can set here truncated text to have only 4 lines of the actual text. So like that. There we go. So now I'm going to group all those components here into new frames. So now we have the frame that contains 2 different frames, icons and this avatar and the text. And now I'm going to select this whole frame and this text and press Shift A to create the new frame, right? And now we can define here the actual space between those 2 actual components within our new frame. So the spacing here will be also 12. Let's specify that. There we go. Now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to also create the new rectangle, right? So now I'm going to create here the new rectangle, like that. I'm going to move that down below actually. I'm going to now specify this actual frame that contains all those components inside within this new frame. So let's select this rectangle and this actual text by holding down the shift or this actual component and press Shift A. And now we have a new frame. As you can see, this is the new frame which contains all those elements and this background, of course. So now let's select our new frame that contains all those components. So as you can see here, I'm going to specify the actual padding, vertical padding to be 12. So we have 12 here and 12 here, there we go. On the left and the right we also have 12, perfect. And the spacing between, I'm going to just set it to 0. Okay, now we can place this new frame right here. Alright. And the next thing what we can do here, we can just remove this actual background from before, and now we can select this actual image and this whole new frame down below, and now we can create the new frame as well. So Shift plus A, there we go. And we can also specify here the space between those 2 components within this new frame. I'm going to now remove that actually. Here what I'm going to do, I'm going to just now add the actual stroke to this whole new frame. That stroke will have a will be outside, so we can actually see that. The color of this will be 10% opacity of the black color, so like that. And we can also specify here the actual padding or the radius level on each and every corner, for example 8. And also we need to modify this corner radius for our image, so let's specify here 8 here and 8 here. As you can see, this is how that corner radius will now look like. So we also have this radius level and this stroke color as well. Perfect. Now let's select this on the bottom. Let's change the frame color to white. And of course this actual radius level on the bottom left and right. And this is how now our new component will actually look like. We can also specify here maybe some shadow effect, some drop shadow, there you go. We can modify its values, for example 16% opacity or even lower than that. We can now remove those guidelines so we can actually see how our component will look like, there you go. So it looks very nice. So now if we try to resize this actual component, as you can see, it will not work. So what we can do, we can also just select each one of those components and we can specify its width here, for example, maybe this frame actually, to fill the whole parent, so fill container, there you go. And now we can try to actually rearrange that. As you can see, this is how it will work. We also need to change this image actually, so let's change this height to be or a width to be a fill container. And now let's try to change that. And also we can change this fill container for our actual image, so we can actually resize that with this whole component, there you go. So this is how our component now will actually resize, so it will look quite nice, there you go. And the good thing about this actual layout or auto layout feature is that now what we can do, we can just write, for example, some text like maybe 1.234 number of likes. And now we can just drag and drop this text. Let me just change its font to maybe 12. And we can just drag and drop that wherever we want within our frame, right? For example, here. And as you can see, that component will immediately appear within our component, and it will have the same spacing as all other children elements within that same frame that we have already created, right? For example, we can also add here one more element. Let me just here write maybe 10 May 2022. For example, let's just reduce its actual font to maybe 10. Let's switch its opacity to maybe 50%, so press number 5. Let's just add that component down below, for example. Okay, and now as you can see, we also have now spacing between each and every component that we have specified right here. So as you can see now here we have a 12 and everywhere is 12. However, if you want to change, for example, and have a little less padding or spacing between those last two components, what you can do, you can select those two components actually, so those two text elements, and we can create a new frame, right? So Shift plus A, and now within that new frame, we can reduce that size to even less, for example 6. And now here we're going to have 6, and everywhere else we're going to have 12. So that's how you can make changes very easily to your actual component. So it's quite easy and very useful. Let me just here now select that new actual frame. And for that new frame, we also need to modify some elements. For example, here I'm going to set a fill container for the width. So we can fill the whole width for this element. Here I'm going to also add the fill container. There you go. Now let's try to modify that. Okay, so we need to modify one more thing. So now select this whole new frame and select this fill content as well. So now that we have specified that new frame to actually fill the content, and now we should be able to actually reduce the size of those elements as well. So there we go. This is what kind of effect we're going to get now. So now you can see that I'm basically reducing the size or resizing this component by using the move tool, all right? What we can do, we can also, for example, use the scale tool, and with the scale tool, all those fonts will automatically scale down as we scale this whole component, right? As you can see, this is the actual and the proper resizing when it comes to our components. So that's basically how it works. And the last thing that I want to mention here in this video about auto layout feature is that you can also specify one element within this frame to have an absolute position, right? So as you can see, whenever we specify elements within our auto layout or our frame, each and every component needs to be on a vertical or a horizontal direction, right? However, there are times when we need to create some more customizable components, and in that case, what we can do, let me just, for example, create here a simple rectangle with a width of 4, with a radius level of maybe 8. Let's change its color to be this blue color, for example. And now let's specify this right here within this frame, right? So whenever we add the new component to our actual frame, then that component will be vertically aligned because the direction of this actual auto layout frame is vertical, right? However, what we can do, we can now select this element from this frame, and we can choose this option that says absolute position. So with that option enabled, we will be able to place our element basically wherever we want, right? So now we can modify that, for example, right here. We can just select that actual rectangle. There we go. We can even put that rectangle somewhere on the top, for example, right here maybe, or here. There we go. And now we can also constrain, for example, this on the top and on the left side. As you can see now, this is how it will actually look like. So it will be placed, for example, somewhere here. There we go. We can even increase its actual width. So it's up to you. This is how it can look like, right? Okay, so that's how it looks like. And our component is also not just responsive, but beautiful as well. And here, of course, we can add as many elements as we need. The only thing that we need to make change here too is to be sure that our actual children within our frames are either vertically or horizontally aligned. So you have already seen that we have added 2 additional new elements within our component, like this number of likes and this timestamp down below as well. So if you don't want to have the same spacing between each and every component within this frame, then you can create the new nested frame, and then within that nested frame you can make changes and make sure that you have a different spacing between all those elements as well. So for example, as you can see here, we have added a new frame that contains a different direction, which is a horizontal, and then we have specified that frame and the other one within the new outer parent frame. So this was just one basic example, but with this auto layout feature and with the frames, you can create basically anything you want, and the possibilities are endless. So if your actual frame or component does not resize quite well, then you need to make sure that each frame that you have within your actual component and each component actually has this layout feature or this width specified as a fill container, right? Because otherwise, if you don't have this fill container and you have, for example, some fixed values for the width, then whenever you scale your component, that component within will not scale because it has a fixed size, right? However, when all your components are dynamic and has this fill parent or fill container as the width, then they will be able to scale quite easily, which is amazing, right? And there you go. So I know that this topic may sound confusing at first because there are a couple of things that you need to get used to it, of course. But if you have any questions about this auto layout feature or anything else related to this component that we have just created, then feel free to comment down below and I will be happy to answer on all your questions. So for this video, that'll be all.